Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, and my friends, this is my character overview guide for Guilty Gear Strive. So Guilty Gear Strive is, simply put, one of the most anticipated fighting games in many years, and well, there's a very diverse roster. One of the big things about Guilty Gear is every character plays wildly different from every other character. There's no like Ryu and Ken similar style characters. That closest would be Sol and Kai, and even then they're still completely different. So in this video I'm going to be going through every single character in the game and giving you an overview of just what they can do, just letting you understand the basics of the character, what their flair and flavor is, and hopefully maybe that appeals to you. Maybe you can choose your main character from that. Now, right before we get into it, every character in the game here on the main menu has a difficulty rating, as you can see here in the stars under the name. So more stars equals more easy, less stars equals harder character. So say Nagoriyuki here is 2 stars, Millia is 2 stars, Chipp 3 stars, and so on and so forth. Kai is the only one who is 5 stars, so easiest overall character, and Zato is the only one at 1 star, meaning most overall difficult character. Now, overall, well, maybe this should inform your choice a little bit with this, I suppose, but don't let it scare you off. I do think it's accurate for the most part, except for maybe Faust. I would say he's 3 stars. I think he's a little bit easier than that, but overall, it's just a good guideline for some of the technical prowess of the characters. The only character I would caution a little bit is Zato, because if you start with Zato, you are definitely jumping in on the deep end, but don't let the star ratings overall scare you off of any character. That all said, hey, let's get to it. So we're going to go through every single character, and I'll give you an overview on everyone and what they're all about. So let's start with Sol Badguy. Sol is the face that runs the place. He is the main character of Guilty Gear. Simple as that. Now, being the main character, you might think, well, he's the all-rounder, right? He's a little good at everything, and no, not really so much. Sol is actually hyper rushdown, hyper aggressive. He's not going to be slinging fireballs at you from mid-screen all day like a Ryu or something, right? That's Kai, and we'll get to Kai in a bit. But yeah, he is all about aggression. And to help that aggression, he's got a lot of the tools you need for sure. Not only does he have pretty decent buttons, specifically command normals, forward heavy slash has pretty good range, and forward regular slash has exceptionally good range. So if you're looking to bully in neutral, hey, don't worry, he has the tools. He also has Gun Flame, which is a very short range projectile that he can kind of run behind for pressure. And as an added bonus, he also has a Fake Out, where he'll just do the motion but no fire will come out. So if people are overcommitted and just over blocking, he can get in and say toss you. And speaking of tossing you, despite the fact he's not nominally a grappler, don't worry, he's got a big command grab that does a pretty sizable chunk of damage. So on top of all the other options he has for general aggression, he also has a big slam dunk command grab. If you don't want to earn your way in just by regular movement, he has a lot of ways in through special moves. He has the Bandit Bringer, which is in essence sort of like a dive kick in other fighting games. If you space it correctly, it is also advantage on block. And you can do it on the ground too. If you do it the ground version, though, it just automatically puts you in the air. And he has Fafnir. So Fafnir, if it hits, hey, awesome, right? Good, it hit. But if it's blocked, on block it does a guard break. You can't get a direct combo after it, but it is very much still your turn if it gets blocked. So you have multiple ways just to get in besides regular movement. And you can make them still your turn on block, which is, for the aggressive player, everything you could ever hope for. He also has Night Raid Vortex, this move right here, where he slides a little bit and does this uppercut. And the longer you hold it, the longer you slide. And the beauty of this, of course, is people who want to toss projectiles, fireballs, or whatever, it is basically trivial to go underneath it and smack them in the face. So when it comes to avenues for getting in, Sol is just absolutely rich. He has everything you could possibly want. And of course, on top of all that, of course he has a Dragon Punch style move, because why not? And for flashy stuff, he has this move here where he basically turns into a demon, a gear if you will. And it's also a command grab, so that move's not blockable. When it comes to options, when it comes to just things to do in a match, Sol well, he's almost unmatched. He has so many options, so many toys. If you just want to get in and hit buttons, Soul Badguy is your guy. Now, if Soul is the main character, Kiske is the rival, the Ken to his Ryu, if you will. Now, on that exact note, he is the one who is probably the easiest to understand if you have any sort of fighting game knowledge, because he is the closest to Ken and Ryu, if anyone is in Guilty Gear. So yes, he's got the fireball, he's got the uppercut, and he's got some sort of fancy kick attack. So when you're looking for like kind of that Shoto style mindset, he's got that. But it goes a little bit further naturally, because yes, he's got the fireball, but he's also got like air fireballs. He's got those kind of options. He's got the big fireball, multi-hits, and no, there's no EX meter or anything needed to spend. You can just do this by a button press. And of course, being nice and slow, you get to run behind it and combo after it, all that fun stuff. He himself also has an attack called the Stun Dipper, which goes low so certain things can go over his head while he's doing it. And honestly, he's pretty straightforward. When it comes to attacks, he has very solid range on a lot of his moves. We call these normals, because they're just normal moves versus special moves. And they work. He also has good command normals as well. Just a lot of interesting stuff there. And a lot of his moves can inflict a bit of a status effect on the enemy. As you can see, he's like glowing with lightning. And that buffs a lot of his lightning-based attacks. And also, they tend to take more chip damage as well. One of the most interesting things to happen to Kai in Guilty Gear Strive specifically is when he's low health, you can see kind of like red energy surrounding him. And that means you're eligible for the Dragon Install. So this is a super move, it does take meter, but once you do this move, you are permanently buffed for the rest of the match. Everything you do is faster, better, stronger. Your regular fireballs, that's 2 hits, way more damage. The one that's really big is really big now. Your uppercuts get way better. Just everything you do is superior to the regular version of Kai, and it never goes away. It only goes away when the round is over, one way or the other. So you just become a super version of the character. So if you like that kind of stuff, on top of this very visually exciting look, if you just like the basics, and the basics getting super souped up when your health is low, Kiske is the character for you. So Giovanna. Giovanna is a character specifically designed to be a little bit easier for first-time players. She is a Secret Service woman, protects the president with a giant ghost dog. So already, that's pretty cool. Giovanna's offense is very highly based around kicks and just all sorts of kicking. From a lot of basic stuff, her command normals as well. Just there's like a bit of an auto combo built in here with a forward heavy slash. You just keep hitting it. It's a bit of a, I guess you could term it an auto combo, but it is indeed just a command normal, as you can see here in the list. Just if you struggle with combos, it'll just make life a little easier for you. And just, yeah, lots of kicks. Like something as basic as heavy slash here, big kick. Quarter skull back and kick is a big old boot using your spirit dog to help you out. If you've ever played Street Fighter, quarter circle forward and kick is basically like a spiral arrow style of move. However, the big difference from this is, depending on distances, you can combo from it, as you can see there, which is pretty big. And also, the move is advantage on block, meaning if the enemy blocks this move, you still get to go first. Like, I have the dummy set to do this move, and then they'll jump right away, as you can see there. So, all things being equal, the exact same character, the person who has the advantage will jump first. And as you can see here, just by a hair, they're jumping first ahead of me, meaning Giovanna has slight advantage. So this move is very spammable, very abusable. You just do it, and if it's blocked, you keep going, and if it hits, well, awesome, it hit. That's really all you really need. She also has interesting things like quarter circle back and slash is a built-in cross-up. So it'll automatically hop over the enemy and hit them on the other side. And of course, being a special move, you can cancel into it from various things. And be a little tricky. So like say if I do it off one jab, it'll cross up. But if I do it off 2 jabs, it'll push back just a little further away, so it'll be a same side hit. And that can be very visually confusing, and people won't know the correct way to block. And I'm burying the lead a little bit because one of the most interesting things here with Giovanna has to do with meter use. As you see, when you hit 50% meter, look at Giovanna here. When I hit 50%, ooh, something happened there. And what happens there is she actually gets a buff. She starts dealing a little bit more damage and starts taking a little bit less damage. So that's 50%. At 100%, it gets a lot more pronounced. So look at Giovanna again here. and we're gonna get to 100%. And all of a sudden, Giovanna, well, she's green now. So when this happens, that little bit of a damage buff and damage defense buff you got gets more significant, as now you deal 10% more damage and take 10% less damage. This is passive. You don't need to do anything. It's just part of the character. So if you're the kind of person who's kind of just, really bad about spending meter, like you don't remember to spend your meter properly, it'll just give you a passive buff. Now, once the meter goes away, the buffs go away, right? But of course, you can just rebuild directly to it. So if you like a pretty easy offense and you like, to be honest, having your forgetfulness rewarded, so you get buffs when your super meter is full, Giovanna is the character for you. Mighty Potemkin. So you might notice he's kind of big, right? That's kind of his role. He's the big guy. And one of the things that's a bit of a limiting factor, as the big guy, you don't move so good. You're seeing him here at top speed, effectively. Unlike many of the other characters in the game, he cannot run and he cannot air dash. Versus a lot of, the faster characters, running and air dashing, that's no big deal. For Potemkin, it's the biggest deal, but don't worry, he makes up for it in other ways. So the big thing, I guess you could say, and it's part of the reason why I picked Chipp here as the enemy, because, well, Potemkin and Chipp are natural enemies. Because you got the guy basically with the single most damaging regular move in the game, versus the guy who takes damage not so good. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Potemkin Buster. Yeah, as you can see, that kind of hurt, right? So if I had to give you an analog here, Potemkin is the Zangief. He is the grappler. He is the guy who a lot of his game plan is focused around landing that one big grab. Because if he lands that one big grab, the match is a lot closer to over. On top of that, his regular moves here, like a standing slash, you can call that like a medium attack, standing heavy slash, they're quite a bit longer range than the other characters. So yeah, he's slower. It's struggle for him for mobility, but he can make up for it by the fact that his moves just cover a much larger portion of the screen. He can also hop around with what we call the Mega Fist. This move is not safe if you're very close, so you do have to space it correctly, but it's another avenue for movement. And he has what we call the Hammerfall, this guy right here. So this is a charging forward move. And the thing with this charging forward move is it has armor built into it. So he can take exactly one hit before the armor breaks. So if there's only one hit coming his way, he can charge through it easy as you please. 2 hits though, it'll stop the move. He can also cancel this move at will by hitting punch, and he'll just stop, which is good because sometimes it's a little tricky. So he can go directly in the enemy, use its speed, and right before you hit, stop the move, and instead say, go for your big grab. So he's one of those guys, he's going to make you scared and want to jump a lot. But thankfully for him, he has a dedicated anti-air grab as well. And he has a bunch of like rockets and guns inside of his gloves, and he unloads on you there. And one of his super moves specifically is a dedicated anti-air grab. So if you try to jump at him, that's probably a mistake you're going to immediately regret, because I'll let the damage speak for itself. By the way, you're going to heaven. Yeah. So he's slow. He doesn't move around so good. His defensive options are not great. You are going to take more hits than the average character. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But if you want those just giant, singular, massive damage hits, and you also like a lot of normals and buttons that control a pretty decent portion of the screen, Potemkin is your guy. Leo Whitefang, sometimes lovingly referred to as a gorilla. Why? Because he's pretty straightforward and his offense can be pretty brutal. So one of the things about Leo on the top here is he's indeed a charge character. So hold back for a second, hit forward one of the buttons, and then he does stuff like a projectile. Now this projectile is not quite full screen, most of the screen, right? But what it is versus some of the other projectiles in the game is multi-hitting. So it can break armor and all that kind of stuff. The heavy version is nice, big, slow, and does go full screen, 4 hits. And since it's nice and slow, it is very easy to run after it and chase after the foe. So you can kind of use it as a shield to protect you. Keeping in mind with being a charge character, hold down for a second, hit up in a button, and he basically has a flash kick style move, has lots of invincibility, and one of the best things about it, since it's just charged down and up, if you were to be mixed up, like the enemy suddenly appeared on the other side as a cross up, since there's no motion, it just will always choose the correct side to hit the enemy on. Now, one of Leo's biggest things is this. Quarter circle forward heavy slash is basically an automatic cross-up. Like, it'll do its best to hit the enemy on the other side. If you do it from very far away, it'll hit same side, but it'll do its best to cross up and just be very tricky. And besides that, we're nowhere near done with this move. So if it's blocked, it's Leo's advantage. Leo recovers first if you block this move. So if you're both hit buttons at the exact same time, Leo is gonna win. So it's already a cross-up, and it's already plus on block. What else could it be? Well, you might notice he takes a bit of a funky stance while he's doing it. Like, here I am, right? But how come he's not facing like me? Because that's a unique stance. So while Leo is in this stance here, he gains a whole new move set. His like basic buttons are different here. Like, that's slash. This is heavy slash. If I were to hit, say, the dust button, oh, okay, it's not dust button anymore. It's a giant shield because it's a counter attack. And if it hits during the counter, he'll blow you away. So Leo has a lot of unique pressure from the stance here, and if he dashes, he can actually cross through the enemy as well, and it's just a big part of his game. Also, during this stance, he has a unique super he can only do during the stance, and it's a massive, ultra-quick full-screen projectile that if you whiffed anything, he will hit you with it. And that's not the only way he can go into the stance. There's a couple other ways. Like, he has this move, quarter circle back and slash, that'll get you in the stance, and anytime he throws you, it'll put you in the stance as well. Besides all this trickery, he's just solid. Like, a lot of people say he's brain dead rushdown, but between his very competent zoning, screen control, all that kind of stuff, he's doesn't have to rush down if he doesn't want to, and his normal game is very good. So that's regular slash, this is heavy slash, there's a good amount of range, and also the game just lets you chain them both together. Like, you can just go slash, heavy slash, slash, heavy slash, and just chain them together infinitely. Like, it's kind of like a berserker combo or something. You don't have to stop until you're pushed out or the enemy somehow just gets out otherwise. So yeah, he's labeled as the gorilla, yes. And yeah, you can play him like a berserker if you want to, but Leo, just competent screen control, using a lot of his long-range buttons, a lot of his just neutral is very good. If you want to play him pretty slow, you also can as well. So either for the slow technician or the berserker that wants to mash everything and just go crazy, Leo can do both just fine. How about Ino, the famous guitar witch of Guilty Gear? So Ino, off the bat, she's already different from a lot of the other characters in that, yes, she can air dash, but her air dash is angled. She'll always kind of go down closer to the ground, and she cannot run. Her run is instead this. If you've ever played Darkstalkers or a game with Morgan in it, well, this is Morgan's run. So it'll always leave high off the ground. She'll never just run directly on the ground. And it's to her benefit because that means you can do aerial attacks very low to the ground. And when you can do aerial attacks very low to the ground, then sometimes it becomes a very quick guessing game of, am I going high? Am I going low? Or am I going to throw you? And Ino excels in this. And what helps this along is her very unique projectile. So quarter circle back and punch is this. So she'll just wang on her guitar and then a musical note will come out. And the beautiful thing about this is if it's very close, okay, one hit, right? But if we were to go pretty far back here and then we let it connect, wow, 5 hits. So the further it travels, the more hits it has and the more damage it'll do. So it's great if it hits, right? Awesome even, right? But the idea here is if it's blocked, well, it's 5 hits a block that you have to deal with before it's over with. And during that time, she's going to be riding up behind it. That's the whole Ino game plan, is to do this move here and just go behind it. You got to block, and then it's time for you to start guessing the mix-ups. Is it going to be highs or is it going to be lows? Also, you get to control this here. So if I hold up, it'll go up in the air. If I hold down, it'll go down. And you can mix and match a little bit. Like, you can start down and start working your way up a little bit. And yes, it is air okay. So generally from full screen, the whole deal is shoot it at the enemy and follow up behind it and then just mix, mix, mix. That's hardly all she has, though. She has stuff like Chemical Love, which is an incredibly competent mid-screen poke. This is a special move, just so you know. It is also a high, so it is duckable. But in mid-screen, that's not as applicable. You'll be hitting a lot of people with this. She also has a move called Stroke the Big Tree. And yes, I know that sounds like innuendo, and it is, because Ino's that kind of character. And in this move, she will go very low to the ground. She can go under a lot of things. Specifically, the heavier version of this move is plus on block. So if it's blocked, it's still Ino's turn. Very good. And on hit, well, she can combo from it, right? So that is also very handy. And new and very welcome to Guilty Gear Strive. What if you just fight that enemy that just blocks everything? You can never get in, right? Like, it sucks. And what if they're just so godlike and, you know, they tech all your throws and all that kind of stuff? Man, just like, I wish you could just be Potemkin for a second, right? Well, now she can. Because Megalomania, one of her more famed supers, is now a command grab super. And yes, it does a lot of damage. It, in fact, does more damage than the Potemkin Buster. Now, unlike the Potemkin Buster, you got to spend the meter, sure, but all things being equal, the meter is more well worth the damage you're gonna get. And it does wall break, so you'll get the bonus damage from the wall break as well. It even has a whiff, so you don't completely waste your bar if you don't connect. It's not exactly a lot of damage, right? But it might cover your mistake if you do whiff. So all this kind of stuff, lots of mix-ups, lots of high-lows, and now brand new to Strive, a beautifully animated command grab that does roughly 1 hojillion points of damage. So if you like aggression and mix-ups, Ino is your gal. Chipp Zanuff is Guilty Gear's resident ninja, and yes, he does all the ninja stuff you could hope for. He's got that little ninja run. His air mobility is unmatched, as not only does he get the usual double jump, he gets a triple jump. So that is more than any other characters in the game can do. And in fact, if you happen to be close to the wall, well, he can just run up that wall like nobody's business. Not a wall jump, a wall run. And yes, that wall run, hey, don't you worry, because you can totally use it in combos as well. So you can combo them all the way to the wall and then all the way up the wall. Now, Chipp is a man with a lot of options, and a lot of dirty options at that. Say something as basic as Alpha Blade here. So if I have the bot do it to me here, oh, I got hit. Why? Because it crossed up. I actually have to block this backwards, which is, you know, not exactly something your brain immediately goes to. But even more dastardly yet, depending on the exact spacing, it actually might hit you forward. So if Chipp spaces this perfectly, it's almost impossible which way to tell which way you just have to block it. And that keeps up with a lot of his other moves here, because he's got a lot of other versions. This one you have to block backwards as well. Chipp is just very visually confusing. Not to mention the fact Chipp is just a man of options. He's got a lot. Like, from a basic decent overhead option, he's got ways to alter his jump trajectory. He has Rekkas, like, that's always welcome. He has a friggin' command grab, like, and one that does a fair bit of damage too, right? Chipp is got almost more options than anybody else in the game. Anything you can think of, he can do. Crit clones that are plus on block, you betcha, right? But he does pay for it in one very specific way. Yeah, he's super fast, he's got a million options, a million mix-ups, but he can't take a hit to save his life. Simply put, anything you do to Chipp will hurt Chipp more than any other character. He just doesn't have the defense and the life to play around with. So if you want to pick Chipp, yes, you will have total domination of the screen for most of the match. For every turn the enemy gets, you'll get 3 or 4 turns. But eventually when they hit you, it's going to hurt so bad. So if you're okay with that, if you like dominating most of the match, but dying if you make one mistake, Chipp Zanuff is the character for you. Now, Zato. At the start of the video, if you're newer to Guilty Gear, I warned you, if you want to start with Zato, you're jumping in at the deep end of the pool right away when you're trying to learn to swim. Don't let me scare you, but just let me know you're going to have a little harder journey than most. And why is that? Well, frankly put, Zato is not one character, he is 2 characters. So you have Zato and you have Eddie, who is the Shadow. And to correctly use Zato, you will have to learn how to use both characters at once, which can be difficult. Eddie can't stay out forever. You might notice here in the bottom left he has a little bit of a bar, and that bar, it'll go away after a while. And specifically, if you want to do special moves with him, because he does have his own special moves, it'll drain the bar pretty big time. And if he gets hit, he also will go away. But yeah, that's everything about this character. He has all sorts of options, and one of the biggest tricks about him is those options, they come not when you hit a button, but when you let go of a button. So right now, as you can see, I hit my slash button where it did a little snake move. And now when I let go, that's when Eddie attacks. So one more time here on the left, you can see my inputs. So I'm going to call Eddie. And now I'm going to hit slash. So you saw me do my animation. And only now, when I let go of slash, does Eddie do the move. So you're going to have to learn not only when to press buttons, but when to let go of buttons. Now that said, if you're up for the challenge, then hey, Zato's a very rewarding character. He can do a lot of fun stuff like fly. Like other characters can't really fly in this game, Zato can. He also has a very serviceable command grab. Maybe it's not Potemkin, but considering all the pressure he can put out, pretty dang good. Eddie himself has a lot of options. He can punch at you, he can leap at you like a giant frog, shark, monster. This move right here, he acts as a shield, like he'll block hits for you before he attacks. You can also control a giant chunk of the screen with these drills. And of course, Zato has his own drill attack as well, so that's very good. And just a lot of the animations are beautiful for Zato, like the flight, just his run. He's got like a giant Eddie surfboard. Some of his supers here, like the sword. So if Eddie runs out, the sword immediately resummons him no matter what happened. So he can just keep the pressure and the attacks going, which is very cool and interesting. And just animation-wise, it's beautiful. Like, look at this. Like, great use of lighting, looks awesome. But yeah, so in the end, if you are up to the challenge of playing two characters at the same time, because you can move Eddie independently of Zato and all that kind of stuff, right? If you're up to that challenge, Zato is one of the most interesting and rewarding characters in the history of fighting games. Nagoriyuki is an African samurai cyberpunk vampire. I guess that's the easiest way to describe him. He's very cool to say the least. Now, one thing to note before we get to a lot of the cooler stuff is he's a mobility limited character just like Potemkin is. Meaning, he can backdash, sure, but he cannot run. And also, even Potemkin gets the double jump. Nagoriyuki cannot double jump. Now, on the flip, he actually has probably the best super jump in the game, so that's very handy. But he's mobility limited. Now, here's the thing. You might notice here, if you look at the bottom left, on top of his super meter, he has a very special gauge. And basically anything that he does that is a special move will raise that gauge, as you can see right there. Now, that is one of the keys past his bad mobility, as he has effectively a teleport. And he can get around the screen lickety-quick. Like, movement, if you're willing to raise that gauge, is not an issue. But the thing is, if you want to raise that gauge a bit too much, there's a problem associated with it, and that's this. Look at his health. Wow, right? So, this is what we call the berserk state. And this is a penalty. If you fill out your gauge, you will lose half your health, although it cannot kill you. So if you're low health, it will just leave you at 1 hit point. And some of the big things is this. One, during this motion here, unless you're right beside them and it hits the enemy, it will leave you wide open and they will get a free attack on you. And you don't want that at all, ever. Now, while you're in this state, one of the big things is a lot of your moves get buffed. Like this is a stand heavy slash. Goes full screen. How about this super? Basically full screen, right? But you lose your special move. So just watch out for that. That's the big thing. You, generally speaking, unless it's just out of pure desperation, you don't want to be in that state because it's never worth losing half your life. Because you can't combo into it or anything. At least as of the time of recording this, maybe in a future revision of the game you can. It's just, for the most part, a strict penalty. But now let's talk about that. So you can't use special moves in that state, but outside of the state you can. And he's got some good special moves. So we talked about his kind of short-range teleport. His mobility is there. He also has a quasi-projectile where he sends out a clone of himself. He also has a Dragon Punch style move with a giant double slash, and a move where he goes low to the ground. Each of these moves, no matter what you do, will always raise the blood gauge. But the true trick of it is this. All these moves, you don't just got to do them by themselves. You can do them all together. All these moves chain into each other. You can cancel one move into another move. And you never really have to stop. The only thing that's going to stop you is eventually you're going to go berserk. And the more you chain it in, the more each one multiplies and the closer you're getting to Berserk. If you want to manage your gauge carefully, you want to do these as solos. You only want to chain one into another when you're going for the big damage. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. You do have a way to manage this blood gauge. He has a unique command grab where he basically just takes a bite out of you. He's a vampire after all, right? And if he takes a bite out of you, you see how fast that just drains? His blood gauge goes down very fast. So you can manage your blood that way. Also, any regular hit with the sword specifically, so not things like kicks, but anything with the sword will drain blood and it'll help lower the gauge. Speaking of the sword, he's got pretty long range, longer than average for sure. And one of the bonuses is this. So say we're right here. My heavy slash, it's not going to hit. Because why would it, right? But if we are specifically pretty deep into the blood gauge, so now we're in bar number 2, right? Then all of a sudden, oh, it did hit. So he actually gets bonuses the more he's closer to going berserk. So it's not just a pure, strict penalty. Like, there is some reward for raising it a little bit as long as you don't directly go berserk. So this is a whole crazy management thing, right? Like, you basically want to be high up without going berserk fully, and sometimes you're going to get pressed, you have to do a move, and then you'll go berserk, and hopefully you can survive from there. But he's a very interesting character with a very difficult mechanic to manage. Honestly, a lot of newer players, you're going to go berserk almost every match because you're going to overdo your moves, and it's going to cost you the game. In a way, Nagoriyuki is not about the moves you're doing, it's all about the moves you're not doing, which I guess is proper samurai style, right? It's all about the sword swings he's not taking. So if you're looking for a very visually interesting character with a very interesting, if challenging, mechanic to work with, Nagoriyuki is your character. Millia Rage. So there's two things Millia is very, very good at. That is air movement and mix-ups. So for air movement, hey, just flat out air dashing. She can do 2 of those at a time. Normally, everyone gets 1 air movement. Like, you can backdash or you can dash forward, whatever. But she can do 2 at a time. Doesn't matter which 2, and yes, you can mix and match. So her air movement is just on that alone, near unparalleled. But then again, she's got a lot more going for her. Moves like quarter circle forward kick in the air. Hey, it brings you to the ground immediately, and yes, it can switch sides. So that's very visually tricky. She has this move called Capel, and this move creates basically like a flower in the air for her to jump off of. And yes, of course, naturally, you can use that basically as a third dash if you would so like. And the flower also has a hitbox, so you can use it for all sorts of offense as well. So she's the queen of mobility in the air. That's already established now. Let's talk the mix-ups. First here, Bad Moon. So she uses her hair. Her hair's like, if you follow Marvel Comics, her hair's basically like Venom. Like, it's a symbiote, and she can just form stuff with the hair. And this move is an overhead, quarter circle forward, punch in the air. And one of the best things about it is you can do it as low to the ground as you wish. So if I just do the quarter circle forward motion here, but I do it on the ground, then I just hit up forward. So if you look at the input, something like that. So I just do the motion, and then I just jump at the end. And then I hit punch. It'll accept the move as the air version immediately, like, frame 1 off the ground. And guess what? Have fun blocking that, because you ain't. When she's in your face and you have to guess between her very quick low attacks, and you have to guess between that and the Bad Moon instant aired, that's a true 50-50. Like, you cannot visually see that happening. You just simply have to guess. And that's one of the core parts of her mix. The other big thing is the top. So, quarter circle forward slash heavy slash. Their slash version is basically like a short range projectile. It's just good for like screen control, neutral, all that kind of stuff. The real breadwinner, though, is the heavy slash version. So this move only becomes active when you see the blue part happen. So before the blue part of the move happens, the move's not out yet. It only hits when that part happens. So you might think, well, oh god, that's awful slow, right? Well, the thing is about that. So say I knock you down, like, I just hit you with a sweep. And sweeps are hard knockdowns in this game, by the way. And then I cancel into that move. Okay. And you might notice it leaves me airborne. From which point, yeah, I can air dash. And after that air dash, you had to block the other way. So if you didn't block the other way, that would have hit. And then in and of itself, well, there's the mix, right? I can do all sorts of tricky options. I can just let it rock and make you think I'm going to dash. Like, there's just a lot of things you got to worry about coming your way. Because Millia can ruin your day very badly with a lot of 50-50 coin flip mix-ups. Because you just got to guess. Like, if you have the best reaction times on planet Earth, then maybe you can react to that. That's only a couple frames to react to. But maybe if you're God, you can do that. For every regular human being, though, you can't. So she has very easy mix-ups that are very powerful and tons of air mobility. And heck, even something like her jump heavy slash, which is this weird like mace hairtail deal. It hits both sides. So if you don't even know what side you're going to hit, don't worry. Both options are covered for you. Because the mix is very much just, that's what the character is all about. So if you want high speed, high aerial action, and a lot of mix-ups, Millia Rage is your character. So Axl Low is our long-range specialist. And when I mean long-range specialist, I don't just mean he's throwing fireballs all day or something. I mean, like, this is his standard punch. And yeah, it hit from that far away. So with his weapons here, the sickles on the chain, he's got some real range. From stuff like those basic punches here, like this is his jumping slash. Like, yeah, he can hit you from that far away. So Axl's big thing is screen control and keep away. If you're a character that wants to get in, it's gonna be rough sometimes because Axl is very, very good at keeping you out. Now, on top of these wide variety of slashes here that control all sorts of fun aspects of the screen, he's also got some really weird stuff, like, say, that move right there. Yeah, he gave you for the clothesline from hell, right? So he's probably JBL's favorite character. But that move is a full screen unblockable. Yes, you heard me right, unblockable. So the trick of it is this. If he's successfully doing what he wants to do and keeping you out and keeping you far away, the move is much harder to deal with. As the move, it connects. Yes, it's unblockable. You can't block it, but it only connects when that little sickle comes in from the other way. So if you're closer, there's a lot more travel time. It's a lot easier to see and like jump out of the way or whatever. But when you're full screen, it gets a lot more difficult to visually assess what's happening. Like, yeah, you can still see it. Yeah, you can still get around it. But it's going to catch you sleeping at the wheel a lot of times, especially when you're worrying about literally anything else than that move. The angles he controls are truly fantastic. So just something as basic like, okay, there's crouch punch, there's stand punch, here's crouch slash, here's forward and kick. Like, any conceivable angle of attack you have in, he can cover it. Not to mention he has sickle flash, which is a very long-range strike. Long range in the point where it is full screen. And he's got a lot of options from it. Like, he can just toss it, and that's all well and good. But he can also hold up here and make just change the whole arc of it. If it connects, it'll bring you in. But say if you try to jump past it, it'll hit you while you're jumping. If you're a little too close for comfort, he can hold down while doing it. And then becomes like a giant vortex move. And it will suck you in against your will, by the way. He has options at full screen to really rake in the damage, because he can just make it explode. Like, it's a big part of the arsenal. And of course, there's many other special moves like quarter circle back, heavy slash. That is another screen control move, which is also good for combos. Quarter circle back and slash is a retreating strike, so he gets to run away while putting out a hitbox. So if you're running at him, he can go, nah, I'm just going to keep running away. And if you're running at me, you're probably going to run into this move and get bopped in the head. And to top it all off, when it comes to like screen control, it has a super here one vision. It has a setup, and when you cash it out, it's a time stop. And you can just do whatever you want to the enemy during this time stop. Yeah, now this time stop is blockable, just so you know. It's basically a full screen move, but is technically blockable, but you can also combo into it, FYI. But yeah, if you're looking just to frustrate people, if you want to play keep away all day long and just get people madder and madder and madder that they can't get in on you, Axl Low is the character for you. So Anji Mito is a graceful warrior here, very heavy on the Japanese aesthetic. He is Japanese after all. I guess with the fans, I guess somewhat similar to like Warriors of Kyoshi if you ever watched Avatar. And the big thing is he's really good at getting around stuff and creating a lot of really bad situations for the enemy. So immediately, let's talk one of his most famous moves over the years, the butterfly. So this is a projectile. And I'm sure you were not very impressed by seeing that, right? It wasn't particularly fast. It's, you know, too fast to be a good slow move, too slow to be a good fast move. But what if it hit? And it doesn't even go full screen, but what if it hit? Oh, something happened. So the butterfly flies up and becomes like a giant bird and hits again. So during this time, you know, hey, I can hit you, I can go high, I can go low, and you still got that thing to worry about, right? So if you try to hit me out of it, it might smack you in the head if I just block. So if I just block and you start attacking, it's going to bonk you. So it behooves you to just sit there and block, at which point then, hey, it's my turn. And the big thing here is this. So say we have it set here, the enemy's going to block. So the move doesn't hit the butterfly, doesn't do his thing, right? Wrong. So it still happens even if you block the move. So this is where it gets deadly, just super deadly, right? Like, you got to really watch out for this thing. Because this is not normally how projectiles work. You block the first one, you're out of dodge, right? Not this one. The party only starts once you block this move. Because then you got to really risk it. Okay, do I dare hit a button? Because if I dare hit a button, if I hit him, it will go away. Yes, right? Like if I were to do the move here, and somehow I get hit, the butterfly follow-up goes away. But if I'm just waiting for him to do something and he tries it, then he gets bopped on the head, and then I get a full combo. So it's just really strong pressure, and you can do it off basically anything. Like even something as absolutely basic as like you go for the sweep, you do it, it'll hit them very deep into their wake-up, and they have basically no choice other than to deal with it. Now on top of that, we have Fujin, quarter circle forward, and heavy slash. Fujin is very deadly because, well, it advances, it hits, but it has 4 possible follow-ups. If I were to hit punch afterwards, I jump up and throw a projectile. If I were to hit slash afterwards, I go for a low, it has to be blocked low. If I go for heavy slash, I go for a heavy slash that is an overhead. So we gotta block that overhead, also leads to a combo. So he gets extra damage. And if I were to go to kick, it's basically like a hop that resets to neutral. And if you're slow on the wheel, you're slow on the uptake, then from there, like I can throw you, go for another hit or whatever. And also, this move is holdable. So if I hold the button, he does like a little twirl beforehand. And what that means is this. He can deflect things coming his way. And like it can be a projectile, it doesn't particularly matter. Just whatever it is, as long as it's not like a light attack or something, any kind of thing that it's a projectile or a heavy attack, he'll just deflect it. At which point as well, he can still attack you just fine. And generally speaking, for most cases, he's going to recover before you are. So here's a regular attack, and I'm going to spin right through it, as you can see here. And create a little bit of a hit stop effect, as you can see there. So it gives you enough time to be like, oh, I should hit him in his recovery. It says punish, as you can see. So there was basically no way to avoid it. It's guaranteed damage. And this spin, he doesn't even have to do it off that move. He actually has spin built in. Just quarter circle forward kick, and he'll spin across. Make sure you don't get hit out of it, though. And he'll spin across and just do it. So if he wants in, he can literally just spin his way in, and it's very difficult to deal with. Because so many moves in this game, he'll just spin right past it. Now, something like a jab, as you can see there, doesn't really have the full stop. Like a jab, you'll recover in time to block. So it's a little safer to deal with than like some of the bigger attacks. But yeah, he can just spin past a lot of your stuff. And there's not too much you can do about it. So if you're looking for someone who has a lot of pressure, a very strong attack that has a lot of mixes and follow-ups afterwards, also an attack that protects itself because you can spin and beat everything before it connects, and or you can just spin to win whenever you want, right? So if you just want someone who can just gorilla his way in and make you deal with a lot of options you don't really want to deal with, Anji is your character. Mei is Guilty Gear's resident mariner slash sky pirate. As you see in the background here, a lot going on. She's part of the Jellyfish Pirates. And the Jellyfish Pirates have their own, like, sky, whale, dolphin, mechanical armada. And it's not just the robots, because don't worry. She's bringing those dolphins to the fight as well. If you like dolphins, like before anything else, if you just like dolphins, Mei's the character for you. And she's got all of SeaWorld at her disposal. Don't worry. She's got the dolphins. She's got the big old otters. Heck, she's even commanding the whales themselves to do her bidding. Anything that's sea-based, like even a killer whale too, on top of everything else. Like, if you like aquatic stuff, you're already gonna like me. And you might notice she's a little girl with a giant friggin' anchor, right? Like that weighs like 1,000 pounds. Well, to get into lore really quick, just because she's Japanese, and Japanese people are basically superheroes in Guilty Gear. I know it's weird, but whatever, that's just how it is. So yeah, she can lift this like 1,000-pound anchor and just crush your skull with it, no big deal. So Mei is a charge character, so you have to hold back and hit forward, hold down, hit up, that kind of stuff. But the moves are very strong to make up for it. She gets to be very belligerent with a lot of the dolphin moves. To the point, heavy dolphin, so charge back a second, hit forward, heavy slash, that is plus on block. So it is Mei's turn before the enemy's turn. And you can be belligerent with this move. You can just spam it. And honestly, most people, until they're very, very comfortable with this character in this match, are not going to be able to deal with that in a very good way. I certainly couldn't. I'll tell you from firsthand experience, right? So if you're looking for something easy to use and abuse, dolphin spam is the way to go. It's the wave of the future. And also, why not? She has a command grab as well. She doesn't get too much out of it outside the corner, although once you're in the corner, things start getting a little more fun, a little bit more interesting. She also has a very wide array of command normals, so she has like a quick little overhead, she has a slide, forward heavy slash is this giant anchor dunk, which does a lot of damage as well. If you hit down heavy slash, you can change her air angle, which is always incredibly useful in any fighting game. Having a predictable air angle is always bad, especially if you want to jump a lot, and being able to change it on the fly is always helpful. Also, her projectile, Mr. Arasugawa, tends to eat other projectiles, and she can freely move like a little bit after he's on the screen, so it's just pretty decent overall. But yeah, if you just want to go friggin' nuts, like if you just want to go crazy, you want to stop going to church on Sunday and say, God, me and you, we're done, because I have my new God, and that is Mei. She's your character. She's absolutely bonkers in her current state. Maybe if you're watching this like a year from now, she's been nerfed to garbage or something. I don't know, right? But as it stands, if you just want to be a very simple game plan and spam those friggin' dolphins, Mei will do very, very, very good by you. The good Dr. Faust. Faust, he's an odd boy. Not the least of which is, hey, well, just look at him, right? He has this creepy look, but don't worry, he's got his 6 sneakers on, so don't worry about that. And he just moves weird. And like, you know, if you just want to kill yourself and be reborn out of your own body, he can do that just fine as well, right? If you're looking for an oddball, yeah, Faust can do it. And also, Faust, he is every Smash player's worst nightmare. Why? Because when you play Faust, items are always on. So he has this move here, the item toss, and it's pure RNG. You don't know what's coming. He's got a whole bunch of items, and Lord knows which one's coming next. From bananas, which heal you, but also can trip you when you slip on the banana peel. Little trumpets here, and if whoever gets the trumpet gets to summon a little mini Faust army here. There's just so much, and a big part of the game plan is being one with the RNG. Understanding how it works, assessing which items are coming out, and then basing your game plan around that. And it works just as applicable for the enemy. So you gotta be on the ball, yes. And there you go, lovely little donut, right? You gotta be on the ball, but so does the enemy. They have to react to everything just as much as you are. Some of the items are very strong, some of them are a little weak. Like, once again, the banana can heal you, but then it's a secondary item where you can trip over it. If you're very lucky, you might eventually get a meteor. This is the rarest of all the items, and it's just a massive screen-controlling fireball. Like, it's all upside. If you could choose meteor all the time, which I do because I'm in training mode, but this is the one you always want. But it is also the rarest of all the items. You want to put afros on your enemies? Go nuts. Hey, he's got an afro now. And yes, this has gameplay mechanics, because I can set that afro on fire. Besides the quirkiness of the item toss, he's just pretty decent. One of the big things here is he's got an awful forward amount of movement, but his back walk is super fast. His regular run also is, well, it's crazy, as you can see, right? He's just got good screen control. He has a lot of range on a lot of his moves. Like forward heavy slash is this massive screen controlling swing, which is also an overhead, by the way. He has an air fireball. This is just quarter circle forward punch in the air, and it just tosses his head off at you. One of the big things here is he can hit himself with it. So if you were to do it right beside the enemy, you can hit yourself as well. And that's keeping in kind with the character, because some of the items, actually the enemy can steal the item from you and hit you with it, right? So much of what Faust is like you live by the edge of your seat, because the whole battlefield can change at a moment's notice, because one item could be the perfect thing you need, or it could be the absolute worst thing you could hope for, right? Besides this, he has all sorts of teleport gimmicks, like which side am I going to be on, who knows? Like only Faust, the person entering the input, really knows. And he also has a command grab, which can manually inflict the afro state, because he's given you the afro by cutting your hair. And on top of all the weirdness, like he can smack your shin so hard with a wheelchair, nominally trying to help you, but it's the last thing the enemy wanted, right? He's just an odd duck. Now, on top of the RNG, on top of all the weirdness, all the weird states you can create, if you just want someone who's crazy and weird and not like other fighting game characters in any other game, Faust is your character. And now we arrive at Ramlethal. So Ramlethal, you might notice these giant effing swords, right? That's kind of the big deal here. Now, first thing is they got the range. She is not struggling to compete in neutral. If she wants to hit you, other than being exactly full screen, it is not much of an issue for her, because these swords have the range. Now, on top of this, she has a pretty decent combo structure, thanks to the move Daro, which is Dragon Punch, Motion, and Punch. And she'll do this. So something basic like this, from which she can easily follow up from with any additional hits you want. She also has quarter circle back kick, which is a leaping overhead attack, must be block standing. She also has a Rekka series, quarter circle back punch. So if you just do only one motion, she'll do this, but each successive quarter circle back punch will do additional follow-ups. And this is very good for combos, and additionally, she can stagger it pretty heavily, as you can see there, so it can mess with people on block strings and all that. But we're burying the lead here, because the big thing is still the swords, and it's tossing the swords out. So she can hit quarter circle forward, slash, or heavy slash. Each one tosses a different sword. And you're seeing not too much here, right? But the thing is, if we get closer to the corner, the swords stick to the wall. And then they explode. And this leads to a lot of pressure and a lot of combos. One thing, though, is once these swords are tossed out, she doesn't have them anymore, right? So she can either wait for them to come back naturally, it'll take a few seconds, or if, once again, we're in the corner here, if they're just there, you can just go pick them up and they're just immediately back on you. But yeah, it just makes combos so easy, because it already hits when it hits, and when the sword explodes, it's the second hit for a combo. So just basic stuff works. So I did nothing more than just slash, down heavy slash, toss the swords 2 times, and just bopped them, and then wall broke. That was it, and you can see the damage, right? So any corner combos are super effective. And the true beauty of all this is she can corner combo you basically anywhere mid-screen. Like, she does not need to be in the corner to corner combo you. If she's mid-screen, she will bring you to the corner. As you can see right there. And that all started off a basic stand kick. Nothing more complex than that. So just frankly, a lot of her combos are heavily damaging, and just about any hit mid-screen will always bring you to the corner. So if you're just looking for pressure, and you're looking for big damage in relatively simple combos, Ramlethal is your character. And there you have it. The cast of Guilty Gear, super diverse. Nobody plays like anybody else. They all got their own thing going on for them. That's one of the true beauties of Guilty Gear. It's just how unique everybody is. That all said, though, I hope this video has helped inform you on just what a lot of these characters are capable of, and maybe you can make your character decision choice from there. Although, I do highly suggest try everyone at least once, just to see what's out there, because maybe someone might surprise you. But that all said, my friends, that is indeed the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Guilty Gear Strive.